podium. This might not work. No, this is fine. This is closer to you anyway. Hi, so good to see all these faces, these beautiful faces from my past. I still, as the song says, I will always think of Mountain Lakes as home. I have my great friend Tracy still living there. So many of you still in town. I am envious because, my parents had great foresight. When my brother and I were born, my older brother, a year and a half older, also has my form of dwarfism. And my parents knew they wanted to find a town that they could move to and stay, and that had a good school system where we could walk, where we wouldn't have to be bused and be at the mercy of other children, even though that happened anyway. But they were really looking out for us when they found Mountain Lakes. And thank goodness, because I have so many great memories of this town. And this feels like a reunion today. Thank you all for coming and reminding me how many great years I had in Mountain Lakes. And I'm not that far away. I'm only 15 minutes from here. But sometimes it feels I'm far because Mountain Lakes has a certain quality about it and a vibrancy in its people. So I'm so happy to be back here. Thank you, Joyce. I guess you all know now I have a memoir. It came out in March. And it's interesting because I'm not a writer. I'm a writer now, but I didn't start out as a writer. I was an artist since I was very young. And art was really something that nurtured me, that defined me. It gave me some value, I felt, in this world. And when I was in my early 20s, I started hand painting cards. And I was able to start a business, and this was really exciting to me. First of all, I was sort of hiding from the world. I could be in my home and not have to go out and report to a job every day. But it also was telling me that I could do what I loved. And I felt this was such a great validation from the universe saying, really, we're behind you. And then, 10 years later, the arthritis in my right arm got so bad that I had to give up my art. And this was devastating to me because it had been something that I defined myself out in a positive way, not all my negative definitions that I've picked up along the years. So this was one more time where I felt defeated and said, what did I do? What did I do now? What did I do wrong? Why am I being punished? Or is this just an accident? And I lingered in that for quite a while. And what I discovered was that was how I had been living my life. That was who I thought I was. That my body would ruin everything. That I would never be good enough. That things would not work out for me. And my father suggested, after many months of sort of staying in this pity party and all my old memories were coming up of sad times and difficult times because of my unusual body. And my dad suggested that I learn computer graphics with my left hand on the computer keys. And I really resisted this. I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and I was not going to try something different. But he said, I'll loan you the money for the computer. This was back before everyone had computers. I'll loan you the money, and if you never make money doing computer graphics, you don't have to pay me back. I thought, okay. It's a win-win. So we went out, got our first little iMac, got it up and rolling, and before I could even look at the graphics program, I got hooked on email. And the immediacy of the email was so rewarding to me that I started to reach out to some of my friends and trust them with this terror that was really going on for me. that life was always going to be this struggle. And as I shared some things I had never shared and some memories I had been ashamed of, the responses from my friends, and my friend Tracy's is in the book because it meant so much to me, that she said, even though your differences are visible, we all have them. We all are hiding some scars inside. We've all been through the ringer. You may not be able to hide yours as well, but that turned out to be a good thing. I couldn't run from who I was for that long without the anger and the pain and my shoulder literally giving up and saying, I can't work under this tension. Because I was tense all the time. I didn't show it on the outside. People would not have known it. But it was there. It was there doing damage to my body. It was doing damage to my life because I wasn't willing to put myself out there. So as I started to write, I started to feel better. And I was trusting more and more in this process of letting go of the negativity, looking at it in a different way, allowing other people to look at it for you and to say, like as Joyce was saying, that vision of me, that's not who I remember because I was living in my own negative world. But when I hear it, I think, that was a part of the real me, trying to get through. It just wasn't the one I knew. I knew the negative person that was inside, plaguing me all the time. And this was the one that needed to come out. And my book was what helped me do that. I'm going to do a quick reading of this discovery. This is when I first started writing and realized that it was going to be therapy and it was going to be my message to the world about adversity. That the thing that I thought, being born with spondyloepiphyseal dysplasia, my form of dwarfism, I thought that was going to curse me always. And it became my best teacher of where joy really lies. And how just a different viewpoint of something that looks like a struggle, it looks like misfortune, when I turned that around and decided, I'm going to find something good in this. I'm going to make something good out of this. And of course we can, as soon as we have that attitude. Take on that different, that choice. And it's always a choice, because everyone has their burdens. We've all been, as Woody Allen says, if you've been put through the ringer, it's because you're worth the laundering. So much good comes out of these struggles we go through, and we resist them as if we're bad or as if the world is accidental. Instead of, these are the things that bring out who we are. They bring out the best in us. They get rid of the masks and the pretenses and the no's that we learned when we were growing up, and we become about, yes, I am, yes, I deserve, yes, I'm worthy. Because none of that was in my vocabulary when I was growing up. I didn't think because I was different, I thought, I don't deserve as much. But everybody has their issues where they think they don't deserve as much. And to find them and express them and let them go is so healing. That day, I wrote a lot. And I wrote for many weeks after, reviewing and redoing the life I thought I'd known. My right hand started jumping into the typing mania, and my shoulder grew stronger. They say that you can't change the past, but it was changing for me. Somewhere during the excitement, my woeful tirade transformed into a long love letter from my soul. The revelations were cathartic as my heart broke wide open. The doctors weren't evil, they were unaware. My parents weren't unloving, they just didn't realize what a good actress I'd learned to be. The anonymous computer screen became a place to put all my pain. And somewhere along the way, it started to put me in my place. I began to see that no matter what the situation, my fears were generally the same as they'd always been. Each new problem was the same old addiction, cleverly disguised in different packages, still waiting to be unwrapped once and for all. I was born with certain physical limits, but after a time, my fearful response had taken charge. I'd been subconsciously using my body as a gym excuse from the universe, so that no one would expect me to accomplish as much or be responsible for as much as normal people. I went over the heartaches of my life. I wrote them out and I gave them voice. I felt forsaken, but angels watched over me the entire time, knowing that from where spirit stood, the story looked perfect. It was illuminated, purposeful, and part of my path home. As the hurt and self-pity diminished, it dawned on me that my problems had served my own inner design. My loyal body had followed my fears like a manual and would stay in line with those directions until I drew a grander picture for it to follow. All my life, I'd been asking for healing and love, yet I'd been preparing for pain and disappointment. The universe had been providing a neutral illustration of what I expected. In seeing my intriguing creations, the self-judgment started to fall away. The lies and the I'm not good enoughs were just worn-out patterns. I kept forgetting everything I'd learned, and then I'd remember again, and love forgave it all. Life was far more glorious than I had allowed. It wasn't a bad hand, I just had to play it differently. Happiness couldn't catch my eye unless I looked in its direction. I decided that I would stop at nothing short of joy. My incredible journey, which started out thinking that I had been punished, really, turned into this very thing being the message that it's not about our outer circumstances. It really is about the choices we make. And, when we look around and it looks as if someone else's life is going well and fine and we feel a pang of jealousy that ours isn't, we don't know the whole truth of someone else's life. Just as when people looked at me when I was growing up and said, "There by the grace of God go I," to use me as a barometer of their gratitude for their own life, that they or their children did not have to face what I had to face. But if I hadn't had to face what I did, I wouldn't be here. I certainly wouldn't be me, because I believe this was part of my purpose. My purpose is to not be what those expected of me. The doctors want to eradicate birth defects. And, the name itself, birth defect, is incredibly negative. When so much power came out of this for me, I could never call it a defect. I could not call my body abnormal anymore, because it brought me to this joy that I know now. And it brought me here, back, into my home, back to my friends, in a way where I feel I am more myself than I've ever been. I could go on hiding what was shameful to me, what I thought made me not enough. But then we are half of who we can be when we don't connect with the people who love us, the people, as Joyce was saying, who see us for who we really are. I would not have known that that was me if I hadn't been through the adversity I've been through. I would have said, well, that's who I want people to think I am, but that's not who I am, when on the inside I'm thrashing around. About a week ago, my husband and my boys and I went fishing, and it was a lovely day, and by all looks of it, it was going to be a peaceful day. I don't particularly like fishing. I don't even like the hook into the worm. I feel sorry for the worm. I don't like the hook in the fish. But I love when the kids catch a fish. You know, I cheer when they catch it, and I cheer louder when they release it. Sometimes it is released onto a rock before it jumps in the water, but so I was there for the support and to be out in nature. But we are positioned between two large bush trees. And as my husband casts for our youngest son, it goes right way over the top and over a branch. And this is discouraging enough because we probably have to cut the line and restring it, and it's a hassle. But as the bobber landed, a fish grabbed it. So now we have a line stuck and a fish dangling on the other side. Me, who would save a worm on the sidewalk, and looking at this fish, feeling great empathy. And so much so that all reason goes out the window. And I decide, after Bill is tugging and getting angry that it's not coming off, and I am sort of backseat fishing, telling him to pull it this way. No, you can do it, go this way. So I decide to take matters into my own hands. And you know, we go to mountain lakes, the edge of the lake is really disgusting. I don't know what that is. It's like fish poop. It's horrible. And it's endless. Now, I grew up here. Why didn't I remember that? I don't know. I saw that fish dangling and thrashing, and I connected to him, or her. And I thought, I'm going in, and I'm going to go out 10 feet into that mush and pull that fish in. So I step into the muck, and it goes up to my knee. Now, why I didn't stop there, again, don't know, because it was still another 10 feet to go out into the water. I guess I thought it would be getting clearer. I don't know. I was holding a very weak branch that was not going to hold me, but I didn't care. And when I took the second step, which was only a couple inches away from the first, went down to my hip and into the water. And I must have let out a yelp because I saw my husband bounding across the edge to come get me. And I'm still in pretty good humor thinking, well, this is ridiculous, but oh well, you know. Until I realized my beautiful, expensive, turquoise camera is in my cargo pant pocket. And I hand the camera to Bill, thinking maybe by some miracle it still works. No. He clicked it and he said, "It's a goner." And what all my kids could do was this. Because I stunk. It's so smelly by the edge there. So I walk out and I'm dripping with muck. I've destroyed my camera. The fish is still dangling. And I think, why? Why did that happen? Well, Bill decides to try to retrieve the fish. He sees that we're not going home until that fish is free, and I'm not going to cut it and have it live dragging a bobber for the rest of its days. So he gets in, and lo and behold, because he's taller and has longer arms, he gets the fish. I am not feeling any better because my camera is dead, and it's to free a fish. So we go home that night, and I am beating up on myself royally. Not just for the camera, but for why did I make those choices? Why did I do that? And that's when the aha came over me. I've been spending the past few months beating myself up over not doing enough promotion, not bringing in the finances I thought I would. And what happened was the little fish expedition let me see that's what I was doing. It wasn't just that. Wayne Dyer has a great quote. He says, "Our circumstances don't make us, they reveal us." And when that happened and I plunged in and ruined my camera, I said, that angst was already there. It had been there brewing for quite a while. I saw the fish, I related to it in a way I did as a child, thrashing about, feeling disempowered, feeling caught on a hook, and I lost my senses and decided I could get in there. So in many ways, these little misfortunes, and that's just a little one, but it's typical of our daily lives. You know, something happens, our car breaks down, or someone's grumpy at the grocery store, and we take it so to heart, but really, those circumstances are revealing who we are. They're not making us angry, they're bringing out the anger that's already there. So it's up to us to go inside and find those places, and life will help us, because there's always some fish dangling on a hook calling you to fix it. And life will be a mirror for us in that way. Where do we need to change within? Where do we need to take responsibility instead of grumbling about how the world is or how our body's working or what's not going right? Where can we change? Where can we take responsibility and say, you know what? This is very similar to how I've always felt. Why do I always run into the cranky people? For me, it was, why do I run into the cruel people who would call me names? I don't run into them anymore. And the world hasn't changed, but I did. Something about when I decided that the negativity is in me, and I have become a magnet for more of it, and I don't want to be a magnet anymore. So I started to look for ways that I felt valuable, that I felt worthy, that other people said was valuable. Anything to boost me up so that I was not walking around a target for the negativity that's always out there. We can attract either one, but it's up to us. And when I changed my perspective and decided if it's within me, if that joy and love and peace is inside, then all I have to do is bring it out. I have to uncover it from the past. And there was a lot. I had been holding on to a lot. And we all have it. We've all had years of experience with disappointment and loss and tragedy and things that we're still carrying. They hurt us then. Why are we letting them hurt us today? By going over it and over it. And when I went over it to write my book, I started to see the full circles that I had been through. I started with doctors labeling me and with people feeling that my birth was a misfortune. So I had this internal dialogue going on that, you know, sorry, but you're not going to have as good a life as others. And I started to create that. I believed it. Our beliefs are so powerful that if we're walking around saying it's not going to work out, it's not going to work out, it's not going to work out. So one of the best full circles for me was with doctors, because we started off in such a pit in my mind. I'm just going to read you about one event in my childhood. My parents used to take us to the Center for Birth Defects, and that name in itself, as I said, was very disempowering. And this one particular visit, my parents told me it was a convention. And I thought, I was 9, but that sounded big and bad, because I didn't like going in the first place. And now they were saying it was a bigger thing. So I hid that morning. I hid behind our house for as long as I could tolerate it, and came out, and we went. And I remember the doctor coming. Many doctors saw us that day, but one doctor came to the waiting room and led me away on my own. "We're going right in here," the doctor said, as his toothy smile went first through the double doors. The sight ahead made me gasp. I was abandoned as he joined the sea of white coats with silver nooses around their necks. Charts and strange pictures hung silent on the walls. Chairs and tables waited in long rows. Bright lights and metal instruments pinched at my eyes. So much noise until they saw me. A hush fell across the room. Forced smiles replaced the clatter. They wanted something. I stood alone in the front of the room as one of them approached. "Hello, Julie, I'm Dr. Simon." I recognized his Vulcan eyebrows from the last year, but I said nothing. I didn't want them to know how scared I was. Dr. Simon turned away from me and began to address the group. 1 in 100,000 births are yearly affected by spondyloepiphyseal dysplasia, a congenital defect. Here we see the proportionate short-statured SED with short trunk and proportionate limbs. This is unlike achondroplasia, which is a disproportionate short-statured dwarfism with normal torso and short limbs. Dr. Simon asked me to turn sideways and raise my arms. Note the curvature of the spine and pelvic abnormalities. He paused for a second and then looked me in the eyes. "Would you mind standing up on this table? We just want everyone to be able to see your pretty face." On the inside, I was screaming, "No." But a yes flew off my tongue. Even though I hated them, I wanted to be good. I was taught to be good, even for the white coats. Someone grabbed me under my armpits and lifted me into the air up on display. Dr. Simon continued, his strange words pressing into my ears as another doctor moved my limbs, turning and twisting them, bending and straightening. His hollow voice magnified my flaws. Clipboards bobbed, face after face examined me, nodding as they scribbled notes and measurements. They looked so intently, but no one saw. The exhibition continued as I drifted away, desperate to drown out the labels, which were anchoring deep inside me. Defect, abnormal, deformed, dysplasia, arthritis, dwarfism. "Would you mind bending forward for me, Julie?" I obeyed as he continued. "Note the decreased range of motion of the lumbar spine, narrow disc spaces, limited flexibility in neck, decreased range of hip rotation, and degenerative changes in the hips and misaligned knees. There are irregular epiphyses and abnormal growth of the long bones. Out of 5 older siblings, 1 brother carries the same diagnosis of spondyloepiphyseal dysplasia. The other 4 siblings are normal. Mother reports slight motor delays. Patient walked at 17 months of age. We just want to look at your pretty face." When they were done with me, I was brought back to my parents, a lost wallet whose contents had been impersonally scanned. My ID, though, had been left behind. For years, I never knew it was missing. What's wonderful about this, though, is that I went screaming away from doctors for as long as I could in my earlier life. And then, when I most needed them, I needed my hips replaced and my knees replaced, and later I had 2 brain surgeries, and I had 2 cesareans. Suddenly, the doctors were my allies. And it took those surgeries for me to flush out some of my memories, these early memories that were still dogging me, that I didn't know. But life will help us. Even if we don't realize we're dragging around negativity, something will come along. Something will come along to say, "You know what, this isn't you. This isn't you. Love and joy is who you are, not the hardships." But the hardships will help peel away anything that you carry that's not really part of your higher purpose, part of your soul. And I've had so many opportunities. Instead of calling them hardships anymore, they are opportunities to grow and to see who I am and to uncover more of who I truly am, which is peace and joy and service. To reach out to people instead of always thinking about me, what's in it for me, how do I look, how am I going to get out of this, what do I have to give from this? And my memoir has taught me how universal my story is, how we all are so similar. And I can't walk around in the world anymore without seeing another face and knowing how how much we're alike. And that just changes everything. I feel connected to you all in a way that I never allowed myself. I didn't want anybody to truly know me because they might know how defective I was. They might know my secrets. But now, with everything out there, and wanting to live an authentic life and not wanting to carry around this baggage that I was carrying, I feel like this world is a safe place. This world is full of many, many, many more good people than there are those who will hope to bring you down. If there's someone out there who's giving you a hard time, you have to look inside. Where do I feel like I deserve this? Where do I feel this has happened before and I didn't resolve it? I continue to blame. I continue not to forgive. I continue to feel betrayed. All of it, whatever we're carrying, we'll see it outside us. And we could say, it's circumstances making me mad, or we can say, it's inside. The storm is inside. That's where you've got to calm. Calm everything that is not truly you. That's not truly about love, really. So, my journey from what appeared to everyone adversity turned into a very noble teacher. And your adversity, whatever you're facing in your life, can be the same. We just have to look in that direction to believe that there is a silver lining, as bad as it looks or feels. It's there. It's waiting. So, thank you all for welcoming me home. I'd love to take questions if anybody, I can't possibly cover everything, so if there's anything you're interested in, raise your hand.
I was interested to know if you went to college.
I did. I was terrified of going. I thought they would all think I was a child. I had been in bars before where people told me, "Isn't it past your bedtime?" So I thought for sure I would be mistaken as someone's little sister or just too much of a strange freak to be at college. I had all sorts of concerns. And my beautiful, wonderful guidance counselor, Ellie Long, was there encouraging me to apply to Ivy League schools. I thought she was nuts. And I didn't, because I could not see myself as that. I did not think I was worthy of that title, even though my grades said so. I didn't think so. But in later years, remembering that meant a lot to me. That she saw something in me that maybe was my truth. Maybe that was who I was actually, not this one who was saying, "I'm not good enough for that." I went to Hamilton College in upstate New York, a beautiful school. It was really perfect for me. It was small, like Mountain Lakes. I felt accepted there. I don't remember anyone giving me a hard time unless they were drunk and very, very late into the night. And I was not, so I kind of knew that it was them. But that was a very healing time for me, to be away from my family, to know I could be away from them. My family was incredibly loving and supporting over the years. I didn't let it in, though, because I saw how the outer world viewed me, which was as an oddity, as a curiosity, and I decided for many years to believe the outer world and to not believe my family, or the inside, the inner voice that was saying, "You're good, you're fine, you're going to do great." So yes, I loved college. Yes?
Has your experience had a benign effect on Peter?
Has it had a what effect?
Benign.
A good effect.
Oh, benign effect. I thought you said benign. Has it had? That's a good question. We have been in contact more. We are very different. We approached our differences in a unique way. He was much more vocal and sarcastic and angry and outwardly so. I was, run away, hide, do not confront people, So we still are different in that way. But he's proud of me. I don't know that he's actually read the book. He's nervous. So he hasn't said so. I know it will bring up some pain for him because we had such shared pain, and I don't know that he's dealt with it in the way that I chose to. Did you want to say?
No, I just, for those who don't know who Peter is.
Oh, sorry, yeah. That's my brother who's a year and a half older, and he has the same form of dwarfism. See, I'm thinking I know all of you already.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm just curious why you had brain surgery. You seem so
I just threw that in there.
No, it would be interesting to know.
I have...
By the book.
By the book, yeah. Well, I'll tell you briefly. My skull was very tight back here. This is called the foramen magnum or something, some big Latin name. And it was causing pressure on my brainstem, which I actually didn't know, though, until I developed this incredibly powerful twitch in my face. And it pulled day and night and day. And I found some surgeons who specialized in it. It's called hemifacial nerve spasm. And when they went to the MRI to learn how to correct it, they found this other issue called an Arnold-Chiari malformation. And I have these 3 name things. Everything is in 3 names. And so the first surgery was to correct the skull tightness, and the second was to pad the nerves so that I didn't have the wild jitterbug in my face every day. And they were both successful.
Very good, thanks.
Yes?
I don't think your message is a particular age group. I think it applies to all of us. But have you spoken at schools?
No, I'd like to. I think I've gotten a lot of feedback that this would be, because I was a teenager for so many years, in terms of maturity. I was very immature emotionally because I felt stunted by the things that had happened, that I think a lot of teenagers will relate to my many years of discord and internal shame that I couldn't share.
Well, the whole bullying
Yes.
concept.
Yep, I know something about that.
Yeah, and I think that there are so many people out there trying to get that message across. And really ties in not just put everyone's book.
Yeah, when Joyce first asked me, she said, would you like to present to the Mountain Lake seniors? And I thought, the senior class. And I thought, how perfect, that I could speak to them as they're launching into their new life. This is a better gift for me, though, because this is reunion for my heart. Whereas the seniors, I think that would bring up some anxiety for me, but I think it could be helpful, yes. Thank you.
Well, I was going to share that in passing along Julie's book.
This is my best friend Tracy from years and years ago.
When I was passing information when Julie's book was coming out, lots of my friends, contemporaries who have teenagers and the like, said, this sounds like just the right thing for my teenage daughter, my teenage son. And so lots of them have shared, not only read the book themselves, but shared it with their kids. And I think I think you're exactly right. In all the schools, I mean that to help kids understand, we all feel different. I moved in Mountain Lakes when I was in 7th grade. Nobody moved into Mountain Lakes in 7th grade. I was a new girl for 2 years. So, that's
She was
how
called Stoneface because she was so terrified of the Mountain Lakes crowd. We were not an accepting group. Well, I was. We were.
But I still, when I see him at the reunion, I'll make sure to remind him of that. Call me Stoneface. But I think it's a book that in the examples that Julie shared, I think help us, the way she phrases things. It's not just about Julie and her unique stature, it's about all of us and our own unique flaws that we feel the world looks at nothing but those. And I think Julie's book has such a beautiful way of weaving everyday life and everyday for everyday people, how she resolved it, and if she can resolve it, then, I'm 5'8", what the hell, I can resolve my stuff too. So it's a great book for teenagers.
Thank you. You can take your cut after the meeting. Yes, Nikki. you.
May I brag? I went to high school and grade school with Julie's mother.
Yes.
And I think I'm the reason that Julie's mother and dad moved him out.
Yes, you are. They do. Woo-hoo. They do give you credit for that. Yes.
Where was that? That they went to school together?
In Buffalo, New
Kenmore,
York.
Kenmore,
Kenmore, New York.
Yeah. She was so much smarter than I, though. I can remember. Oh, my goodness.
I told her that, and she blushes and says that's so not true. So where did I get my insecurities from?
But I was insecure in high school, too. It's just
Everyone, yeah.
What about your own children?
They are average size. They might be carriers. It's that genetic thing where they would get, if they got a recessive gene from me, but a dominant gene from Bill, they would be carriers. They could have gotten both dominant genes. So I don't know. When I was pregnant with them, I was both concerned about it but also not, because I had learned at that point the gifts it had brought me. So I was concerned that I would have to go through it again, and was I strong enough for that? But I also thought, we all have our adversity. If that's theirs, they'll take from it what they need. They are going to be average height, but they're learning a lot from just having a mom who's different. They don't see it as odd, but I know there have been neighborhood kids who have said something to them, and I saw my one son look at him and say, well, she's a dwarf. Almost like, well, what do you expect? Of course she's short. It didn't bother him in the least. So it's nice to see their reaction. They're so accustomed to me that it's completely normal. I am normal to someone in this world.
Are you homeschooling?
Yes. Yes, we are. Yeah, we won't quite have the same school issues, but there are always issues no matter where your kids are. Any other questions?
It's not a question. I just want to say you're so wonderful. You should be incandescent. You're fabulous.
Incandescent. Thank you. You are glowing yourself. Anyone else?
Why are you homeschooling? Don't you take away from them the friends and boys and experience?
Yeah, well, actually, we have a huge homeschool group, so we're not alone. They have more friends than I had growing up because they have more time. When you homeschool, you have one-on-one ability, and so lessons and learning does not take as long as being in school all day. So they actually have the opportunity to take a lot of field trips with their friends, to have a lot of friends over. So the socializing aspect, which people are concerned about, is not the issue at all. It really isn't. As they get older, there are classes. There are, at County College, for instance, they have classes for homeschoolers. So they'll be a part of school, just not a full day the way kids are now. We just feel like it's a great freedom for them to be able to learn at home and to still be interacting in the world. They come with us everywhere. They have a lot of exposure. But the school system as it is in my town, it's very overcrowded. And there were just some problems that made us look into homeschooling, and it's a good option for us.
They have a top-notch teacher.
What town do you live in?
I'm in Dover.
Oh, okay. Can I say that?
Yes, I know I don't want to insult anyone, but yeah, the school system is struggling.
Yes.
I would have run away from home if they wouldn't have let me go to school. Imagine staying home.
Well, and I think if my children had been very excited, they weren't.
Yeah.
They wanted to be at home. We have a great neighborhood of kids, and so different personalities. If I had had the choice, I would have stayed home. And my oldest son is a lot like me. My younger son, I've asked him, do you want to go? Because they see TV shows with school. They know what school is.
Yes.
They have absolutely no interest. And I can't blame them, because at this young age, they get a lot out of being home and having this freedom to really travel around and see. I loved field trips. I don't know about you, but I learned the most on field trips than I ever did sitting on my butt in a class. It's so boring at times, and they're choosing the curriculum, whereas on a field trip, the kids are absorbing what means something to them. And you don't have to quiz them. They know it. They ask once, and they remember because it means something.
Julie, before people have to leave, I want to make sure that you save time you're going to be talking to people as you're signing books.
Yes, come on up and
she agreed on
hand-painted
a
cards up here.
discount for the books. What is the price?
Well, we have our new books, which are $15, and then we have our pre-release books, which are only $8 because they have some, like this is one, very beat up. It has some typos, it has an imperfect cover, but the story is all there. So those are $8, but the new release is $15. I don't make a lot on books. I don't know if you know that, but it's just, there's a lot of cuts to be made to my agent, to my publisher, to the distributor. The bookstore, of course, takes some. So everybody gets a piece before I do. Yes?
Julie, do you think you'll be an author now and go on and write other books?
Yes. Yes, see you again next year. Yes. I do, and I have some hand-painted cards up here.
Do you ever feel overwhelmed with the mega agenda that you have?
Are you reading my mind? Yes, that has been an issue, thus the fish on the hook feeling. I was very overwhelmed by a new schedule, by lots to do, and there's so much available to authors now, online, everywhere, that it's hard to choose where to go. And in having so much choice, I would often feel paralyzed and not know what to do, and beating myself up for not knowing what to do. I had a publicist for several months. She was a gem, but they're expensive. So I'm on my own now with getting my book out there. So yeah, it was overwhelming. We are at a plateau now where it's feeling much better. All right, thank you. Oh, one more question?
Yes, you said you'd be interested in writing other things. Do you know what sort of things you'd be writing?
That's a good question. And somewhere there are a lot of percolating ideas, but none of them are solidified because I'm still really focused on this book.
Still deep into that. One more question.
Uh-huh.
How are your folks doing?
Oh, they're great. Thank you. They're living up near Buffalo, New York, in Youngstown, so that they can be near their little cottage in Canada 4 months of the year, which they love. It's a peaceful, wonderful place, very close to Lake Erie. So they have retired to the cold, but they love it.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.